Deepseek TUI, the new Claude Code, at a fraction of the price, infinite coding at a fraction of the price. Deepseek TUI gives you a coding agent with a million token context window at roughly 1/10 of what Claude Code costs per task. That changes how many attempts you can afford. Here is the map for this video. First, we start with same prompt setup. Then we move into Deepseek V4. Then we compare GPT-5. Then we test Qwen 3.6. Then we check FOF10 of Claude Code cost. Then we stress test plan or agent or YOLO. Finally, we close on what's the catch. This isn't another Claude Code wrapper, it's a purpose-built Rust agent for Deepseek V4, and that changes how. Deepseek TUI is an open-source coding agent that runs entirely in your terminal. It connects to Deepseek V4 models, specifically the Pro and Flash variants, and acts as an agent, not just a chat interface. That means it can read and edit your files, run shell commands, manage JIT, search the web, and even spawn parallel sub-agents. The project is built in Rust by a developer called Hambone, and it hit GitHub trending hard in the first week of May 2026. At the time I'm recording this, it sits at over 600 stars and nearly 2,000 forks. The key architectural choice is that it's designed from the ground up around Deepseek V4's API, economics, a 1 million token context window, prefix cache aware cost reporting, and native thinking mode streaming. This isn't a wrapper bolted onto an existing tool, it's a purpose-built harness for one model family, and that focus shows in both performance and cost. It is distributed as Rust binaries and can be installed via npm, cargo, homebrew direct download, or Docker. The tool runs from the Deepseek command, streams reasoning blocks, edits local workspaces with approval gates, and includes an auto mode that selects both model and thinking level per turn. For the viewer, this means what is Deepseek TUI and why does it matter is not just background. The headline number is 1/10 the cost, but the real magic is how the prefix cache architecture keeps your. Let's talk money, because that's the headline that got everyone's attention. According to analysis published by Remio, Deepseek TUI costs roughly 1/10 of what Claude Code costs per task when running on Claude Opus. That's not a typo. The reason is twofold. First, Deepseek V4's API pricing is significantly lower than Anthropic's Opus tier. Second, the tool uses prefix cache architecture, which stores shared context prefixes at 128 token granularity. When you iterate on the same code base across multiple turns, repeated reads of the same files get roughly a 90% cost discount. Your cost stays flat instead of growing linearly with context length. For a developer working on a feature across multiple sessions, this changes the economics of AI-assisted coding entirely. You can afford more attempts, more experiments, and longer contexts without watching your API bill spike. And it supports reading and editing files, running shell commands, web search, and Git management. Pre-built binaries are available for Linux, macOS, and Windows on multiple architectures. It's not one binary, it's two. The dispatcher handles auth and config. The TUI runtime runs the agent loop. The tool is distributed as two Rust binaries. The first is the dispatcher CLI called Deepseek. It handles authentication, configuration, model selection, and session management. The second is the actual TUI runtime called Deepseek TUI, which runs the agent loop. You need both on your path. Running either alone gives you a missing companion binary error. Installation is straightforward. You can use npm, cargo, homebrew, direct download from GitHub releases, or Docker. The npm package is just an installer wrapper for the release binaries, so you don't need a Rust toolchain to get started. Once installed, you run the deepseek command and the toolstream's reasoning blocks as the model works. It shows you the thinking process in real time, which is useful for debugging and understanding why the agent makes certain decisions. Reddit discussions from late April 2026 indicate community interest in DeepSeek V4 Pro and comparisons with other models like GPT-5, Opus, as well as mentions of Qwen 3, 6+. However, the actual Reddit content is blocked HTTP follow 3, so only the post titles and timestamps are available. 3 modes, 3 risk profiles, plan for architecture, agent for production, YOLO for when you just need it. Deepseek TUI has 3 execution modes and they map directly to different risk profiles. Plan mode is for architectural decisions. The agent analyzes your codebase, proposes changes, and waits for your approval before touching anything. Agent mode is for structured development. It edits files, runs shell commands, and manages Git, but each tool call requires approval. YOLO mode is for rapid iteration, where the cost of a mistake is low. It runs autonomously without approval gates. The tool also includes an auto mode that selects both the model and thinking level for each turn, which is useful when you don't want to micromanage. The approval gates are configurable through environment variables like Deepseek approval policy, which supports settings like on request, on trusted, and never. For production code, you probably want agent mode with approval. For prototyping or one-off scripts, YOLO mode saves time. The GitHub repository remains the primary authoritative source for technical details and installation instructions. Overall, Deepseek TUI positions itself as a free, open-source alternative to proprietary terminal coding agents like Claude Code, leveraging Deepseek V4 models. Quick aside, if you study from your own notes, try Mnemonic. It turns PDFs, slides, and recordings into summaries, mind maps, flashcards, quizzes, and exam practice. The free plan is enough to test the workflow. Link in description. Then we go back to the video. It's cheap and fast, but there are 3 things you need to know before you build your workflow around it. Now, the catch. Because there's always a catch. Deepseek TUI is built exclusively for DeepSeek V4 models. You can't plug in GPT-5 or Opus. If you prefer Anthropic's model quality for certain tasks, you're locked out. Second, you need a DeepSeek API key, and while the pricing is cheap, it's not free. The tool itself is open source, but the model access costs money. Third, the project is young. It launched in January 2026 and hit VD 8.8 across 37 releases. That's impressive velocity, but it's not battle-tested at enterprise scale. Reddit users in R or Claude Code and R or OpenCode SLI are asking about versus code integration and how close V4 Pro is to GPT-5, XX or Opus. Some users claim Qwen 3 Plus performs better on certain tasks. The direct comparison between DeepSeek V4 Pro and top-tier models is not established by the available evidence. We need independent benchmarks to know for sure. If you're a solo dev or small team, this tools tool is probably for you. If you're in enterprise, wait for the... So who should actually use this today? If you're a solo developer or a small team working on projects where cost matters, Deepseek TUI is a no-brainer. The 1M token context window and an cheap per turn cost mean you can iterate aggressively without watching your API budget. If you're prototyping, refactoring legacy code, or building internal tools, the cost advantage is massive. If you're in an enterprise environment with compliance requirements, the approval gates and sandbox modes give you enough control, but the lack of mature support and limited model choice might be a blocker. If you're working on production systems where model quality is critical, wait for independent benchmarks comparing V4 Pro to GP5, X or Opus before committing. The Reddit community is actively discussing this. Some users report that Qwen 3, 6 Plus performs better on certain tasks. Until we have clear data, treat it as a powerful but not fully proven alternative. 5 minutes from zero to running your first agent session. Here's the exact command sequence. Getting started takes about 5 minutes. The quickest method is npm install g deepseek 2. That gives you the dispatcher and the TUI runtime. Then set your API key as an environment variable. Export Deepseek API key, your key here. Run Deepseek TUI Doctor to verify your setup. It checks API key presence, model configuration, MCP status, shell tool availability, and API connectivity. A minimal config file looks like this: API key, tire key, default text model, Deepseek V4 Pro. You can also set profiles for different providers or API keys. The tool supports multiple providers beyond Deepseek's own API: NVIDIA NIM, Fireworks AI, SGLang, OpenRouter, and Novita AI. Set the provider via config or the Deepseek provider environment variable. Once configured, just run Deepseek and you're in the agent loop. If you want me to run a head-to-head benchmark between Deepseek TUI and Claude Code on a real code base, type bench in the comments. That tells me exactly what to test next. If this helped, like the video, turn on the notification bell and comment what you want next.